Parliament is calling on the public to send their written submissions on the review of the Constitution to allow expropriation of land without compensation. The Joint Constitutional Review Committee has been mandated by the National Assembly to propose amendments where applicable. But to tell us more about how you can send your submissions through, we're now joined in our studios here in Johannesburg by the chairperson of the committee, Vincent Smith. Good morning to you, Mr. Smith.
Good morning,
to see
Palisa.
you.
Good morning to you.
Thank you so much for coming through. Let's just first get an understanding as to what exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for the public to submit their submissions just on Section 25 or other parts of the Constitution as well?
Well, in the main, we're asking for submissions from the public on Section 25. And the question that they need to answer is, does Section 25 in its current form inhibit the land reform project? If not, that's fine. If it does, what amendments would they like us to effect on Section 25 of the Constitution?
And we do know, of course, there are arguments currently with some people saying Section 25 is right as it is, and some people saying no, it has to be changed.
That's exactly the question that needs to be answered. Those that argue that Section 25 in its current form is fine would need to explain why. And those that argue that we need to strengthen it by being very explicit around the issue of expropriation without compensation would need to put that argument forward. And then we will take that back to the National Assembly for the National Assembly to take the final decision.
Let's also talk about, I made mention of just written submissions on my introduction, but you'll also be going out to the public to engage with them.
There is a constitutional requirement for us to consult broadly. So what we have done is we've asked for written submissions. That is in all the major newspapers. Advert will be out. And that advert asks for written submissions. The deadline is the end of May this year. Over and above that, the committee will be going to all the provinces and spending at least 3 days per province, where we will have community meetings, town hall meetings, where we'll also engage with South Africans around what they think should be the amendments, if any.
Yeah, and I believe you would agree with me, Mr. Smith, that this is a very sensitive issue. I remember even the President said so, that this issue will have to be conducted with great care.
It is. It's 25 years, in my view, too late. It's about the restoration of the dignity of South Africans. But at the same time, we need to ensure that we do not threaten food security. Agricultural productivity is enhanced rather than inhibited. So it's really sensitive, and we can only appeal to South Africans to engage in a sober frame of mind without any hysteria. But we will do our best to make sure that it's balanced. Yeah. And we will return to Parliament with the views of all South Africans and not our own views.
Yeah, I wanted to say some people are of the view that this is just a formality. Just a formal procedure to do this, but you're saying that you're giving them a guarantee to say, look, we'll take into consideration your submissions.
Every view is important, and we encourage that already South Africans of different persuasions are having their own internal debates and discussions, religious, business, and so on. So by the time we get out to the communities, there would be a sense of what communities want. And let me reassure all South Africans that all views are important and all will be taken seriously.
Yeah, let's just get your view because the motion, as I said earlier on, that it's actually sparked a lot of conversations on land with, of course, clear differences, as we said, some people supporting it and some against it. What's your take on the dialogue that's been going on here in South Africa on land?
I think it's robust. I think that in the beginning it raised some sort of anxiety, but I think South Africans are beginning to debate it in a more mature fashion, and we will get a sense when we go out. But it's a necessary discussion. It cannot be postponed any longer. So we're going to have to put our anxieties aside and do what is in the best interest of South Africans, because the frustration levels will only increase if we don't address this matter.
If you don't, yeah. So the deadline for the written submissions is the 31st of May.
31st of May,
For the oral submissions?
For the oral submissions, we will be going out to South Africans up until the end of July, hopefully. And in August, we must then go back to Parliament. So there will be opportunity until at least mid-July for oral submissions in the various provinces.
All right, so you're reporting back to Parliament towards the end of August.
31st of August is our deadline, and we are going to try our best to meet that deadline.
All right, talk to us about the process after reporting to Parliament. What happens next?
Well, after we've reported to Parliament, hypothetically, if there needs to be a change to the constitutional provisions, then of course that has to be affected by the relevant portfolio committee that would then change Section 25. Thereafter, the legislation that would then facilitate expropriation without compensation would have to be enacted. Currently, there is a bill that was sent to the President and returned because of the questions around constitutionality.
Yes.
That will then be either strengthened or reintroduced. But ours is just to go back to Parliament and say there must be an amendment, somebody else will do the actual amendment, and then the legislation would have to be put into place for it to be actioned.
All right. Now, for our viewers who are interested in submitting their written submissions, how do they go about doing that?
The advert, as I say, would be out by the end of this weekend, but you submit it to our secretary, who is P. Jaiya, Jayiyya, at parliament.gov.za. But all that information will be in the adverts. City Press, Sunday Times, Free State Sun, all the newspapers would have the advert in the next few days.
All right, we also have the details on the screen, Mr. Smith. We have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through. This is, of course, an ongoing discussion. We'll have you, I believe, later on this issue again.
Thank you, Palisa. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you so much indeed to Mr. Vincent Smith. As I said, he is the chairperson of the committee, as Parliament is currently calling for on the public to send their written submissions on the review of the Constitution to allow that expropriation of land without compensation. So we'll provide you the details as to how you can go about doing that. Okay, it's 4 minutes before the top of the hour here on Morning Live. In a short while, we'll be chatting to artist and poet Ntsiki Mazwai later here in the show. But for now, let us just, hear what she has for us later on.